Hi guys, my name is Joe and welcome to Fighting Words, the martial arts library. This is going to be me telling you guys about all the martial arts book purchases I've made in the last week, time of recording. So for those who've been paying attention to the community tab and I think probably my Instagram, you guys will know that I went on a bit of a field trip. I had hoped to get some videos filmed down there of like demonstrating certain things. That didn't work out, but on the plus side, I got 19 new martial arts books. Now, 4 of those were ones that I ordered on Amazon. 1 came from a mainstream bookseller, but 14 of them came from a used bookseller, so you're going to see the majority of these books were printed in the 70s and 80s. I'm wearing a bit of a different shirt. Real men love cats. Here's the thing. I think most discussions over what a real man is tend to be silly, but I love the people who gave me this shirt, and as a quick aside, this is actually the 7th anniversary of me becoming a cat dad on the day I'm recording this, so hooray me. I'm celebrating with the only cat shirt that I have. Anyway, on to the books. The Tony Blauer Spear System, Volume 1, Overview, Rationale, Principles, and Concepts. So I've wanted information on the spear system for a while. I saw this when I was buying stuff on Amazon, and it was within the price that I was trying to meet. It's a bunch of principles, not a whole lot in the way of drills and techniques, which I was sort of hoping for when I bought it. With that being said, this was published this year, 2024, so I assume there's going to be follow-up volumes, perhaps plural, that will get to that side of it. This is relatively short at, looks like the text ends at page 101. Knockout Punching Power. Knockout Punching, Theory and Practice. By Leo Fong. This is another one. This is just shy of 80 pages long. Honestly, I bought it more for the reputation of the guy who published the book, but it does cover things like, the center line and timing, gives drills and exercises for all of those. So we'll see. It's a little bit on the short side. I don't know if it's actually going to cover any ground that hasn't already been covered by, for example, Jack Dempsey. But again, Leo Fong is a well-known figure, so we'll see how this works out. Thai Boxing, The Devastating Fighting Art of Thailand. This was published in 1975. It is a little bit brief. Yeah, it looks like we're clocking in at under 90 pages. The author is Samyong Tanjaworn, and he shows a variety of punches, kicks, knees, and elbows. Some of this looks like it may be remnants from like old style Muay Thai before it was like a unified Muay Thai. So this is going to be interesting. Written by presumably a Thai, given that name. Most of the ones I know were written in the 90s and early 2000s, so I'm looking forward to seeing this a little bit more in depth. Shaolin Tin Animals Form of Quan Tak Hing. Written by Dr. Long Ting. Dr. Long Ting put out a lot of books, which you can see on the back cover, several of which I have. Several seem a little bit dubious. I will say, as far as first impressions go, this one was thicker than I anticipated because I own several of Dr. Ting's books, and this is one of the thicker ones. Goes over the forms and applications of this 10 animals form. The 10 animals are better than the 5 animals that everyone else is doing. Although I think Xingyi has 12. Anyway, dragon, snake, tiger, leopard, crane, lion, elephant, horse, monkey, and bear. So again, it'll be interesting to see how some of these diverge from some of the more common 5 animals forms. Wrath of the Dragon, The Real Fights of Bruce Lee by John Little. Now, Mr. Little is the man I would consider probably an expert on the biography of Bruce Lee, or certainly a leading expert. With that being said, I've read through this a little bit it seems to me that this is mostly from hearsay. It's a little hard not to be, I guess. I think the only officially recorded fight of Bruce Lee was a boxing match that he had in high school. That is brought up here, but so are several other things. I'm a little concerned about how much of this has sort of been editorialized or embellished, perhaps by the author, but I think probably more the people that knew Bruce Lee. Again, all this information, some of it secondhand. I think almost all of it comes after Bruce Lee's death, sometimes like decades later. I don't know if that's a factor, but I think that it could be. So I'm dubious about it. I am looking forward to it. Combat Swords of the Dragon and Phoenix. So this is a form where two jian, or straight double-edged Chinese swords, are used. It seems pretty well photographed. We have the different lines that the weapons are used in, so we get to see the pattern, the direction of force that the practitioner is using. I think in the intro, let's see, it's compiled based on forms from the Chachuan category, forms from the Luo Chuan category, and the adoption of certain actions from Pakwa Chang. So this may not be a traditional form in the sense that it is older from a single source. It seems to be drawing from multiple sources, so I think that's interesting. And I'm not used to seeing the jian used in pairs. Sometimes the dao, the saber, which, by the way, that's the next one. The saber I've seen used in pairs, but not so much the jian. So that will be interesting to dig into. Simplified Chinese Saber in Action. I actually want to compare this. I have one called Sword and Broadsword Play. I've done a review of that. And I hope I'm not reviewing a book that already has a form that I've covered before. But we will see. Again, we're looking at black and white photographs, and I think it's the same publishing company, the same editor. I don't think he's listed as an author, but we get the lines of action, which I think is helpful. So these are two Taekwondo books by Dr. Daeshik Kim. Volume 1 is complete Taegyuk and Palgui forms and readings. Volume 2 is complete Koryu to Ilyo forms and readings. So these have the forms and descriptions of the forms. And those are then followed by essays on things like, safety tips. There's one on weight training for martial arts. In this one, they cover such topics as the future course of Eastern martial arts. So it's not just here are the forms, it includes articles as well. These are done in sort of an academic fashion, and they are published by the University of Texas at Austin. I like that it clearly has displayed the years. So this is 94, this is 98. I don't know if there's a volume 3, but there wasn't when I looked. Encyclopedia of Okinawan Weapons by Taira Shingen, translated by Ihachi Ota. So this covers basic movements and a few different kata with the bo, the sai, the tonfa, and the nunchaku. It also mentions other types of weapons that are used. And mostly we have photographs, but looks like we also have illustrations as well. Waterryu Karate, Fighting Techniques Uncovered. This is by Frank Johnson, and it includes, looks like, techniques for free sparring. Looks like it has some strengthening techniques, some using traditional methods like makiwara, the geta, which are weighted shoes. And it also has the kumite gata. So in Waterryu, there are a series of specific attack and defense kata that you do in pairs. So those are covered in this as well. Tai Chi for Two, The Practice of Push Hands by Paul Crompton. The name sounds familiar. I may have another book by him. So push hands is a type of sparring used in Tai Chi. So a connection is made with your forearms between you and your opponent, and the hands, the lower upper body tools. I probably could have worded that better. But yeah, forearms and hands connect, at least in this type of push hands. Apparently there are multiple kinds. I've seen some that actually look more like, Greco-Roman-esque clinch fighting. But the objective is to off-balance your opponent, pull them off balance. And in this book, they're showing applications from the various forms like single whip and things like that. So I don't know a whole lot about push hands. I don't really know a whole lot about Tai Chi. So that's why I got this, so I can learn more. Sabaki method. Karate in the inner circle. Kansho Joko Ninomiya. Pretty sure Kansho is a title. Sabaki is an offshoot of Kyokushin, and they're sort of differentiated in part by using more evasion in sparring. Sabaki is a Japanese word meaning to channel power efficiently. I think it's also the same word as when we talk about Tai Sabaki, which is body movement, or to escape the body or something like that. But this includes fundamental techniques, as well as various trips and takedowns, defense against different combinations, heavy bag combinations. Ooh, they have a green belt kata. Their kata are not traditional. They look like prearranged shadow boxing or shadow kickboxing, perhaps. So yeah, this is covering a lot of ground on a full contact style karate. The Wing Chun Compendium, Volume 2 by Wayne Belanoha. Hope I pronounced that correctly. This is an add-on from the first Wing Chun Compendium, which I already have. This is covering more advanced things like, sticking legs, for instance. You've heard of sticking hands. Well, now they get the legs involved. There are also things like the Mokjong form for the wooden dummy, and also the forms for the pole and the so-called butterfly knives. I think they use a different term here, but the Bat Jam Dao. The Martial Arts Catalog. This is by John Corcoran and Emil Farkas. This is not a catalog in the sense of this is what we can order. This is a catalog in the sense of we have cataloged so many different things, including, different weaponry, different styles of karate and kung fu. These include what appear to be interviews. Chapter titles include general questions about the martial arts, and then 30 pages later, the art of karate. Then it expands. Sport karate, kung fu, judo, other martial arts and weaponry. Bruce Lee gets his own chapter. Martial arts in television and movies, books and publications. Guide to Martial Arts Nomenclature. So this is covering a lot of ground. This was published in 1977. So this is very much a beginning to slightly intermediate guide to a lot of aspects of martial arts as of 1977. The Encyclopedia of Kenpo by Ed Parker. So the guy who created American Kenpo created an encyclopedia of it, and it's exactly that. So it's an encyclopedia. Lists the terms, the definitions. For example, ricocheting blocking strike, a single move that is first used as a block, then launches into a strike. So like all the terminology used in American Kenpo, at least at the time this was written. I don't know if it got expanded on after that. The Sport of Judo by Kiyoshi Kobayashi and Harold Sharp. And this is a judo book. Focusing on the basic techniques, everything from break falls to throws, to hold downs to chokes. But yeah, contest rules of Kodokan Judo as of 1953. So yeah, old school judo book. I wonder how far back we can go with judo and still call it old school. The History of Catch. Lancashire Catches Catch Can Wrestling, 1820 to 1870. It's by Ruslan C. Pashayev. For those who watch my short little Tuesday videos, I think I recommended an article that I think was an excerpt from this book. This is, again, on the early history of Catches Catch Can Wrestling. Flipping through it, he's covered other types of native European martial arts, I'm actually hoping that this will shed some light on the early history of Greco-Roman wrestling. I have an upcoming project where I'm going to be comparing the modern sport of Greco-Roman wrestling, including its roots, which are actually French, at about 200 years old, with the ancient Greek art of Palais, which is what we think of as like actual Greek wrestling, and how they were different. So that's for an upcoming video, and I think this, given how much of the history of European wrestling it includes, hoping that it'll include some stuff on Greco as well. And finally, the Bartitsu Compendium, Volume 3. So, Bartitsu was a martial art or a martial arts school, jury's kind of out, created by a guy named Barton Wright, and he made it Bartitsu because the Bart came from his name, and made it sound like jujitsu. And it was actually the first blending of Eastern and Western martial arts, I think, that we found. So he had several judo and jujitsu teachers, and he also had teachers in cane fighting, as well as, the boxing that was around at the turn of the century, savate. There was at least one wrestling instructor, and there were also elements of physical fitness. Although I think I've heard in interviews, when the school folded, he would have like a fitness salon that he also called Bartitsu, but it was more about, again, like gymnastics. But anyway, I have the first 2 volumes. This is What Bartitsu Was and What It Can Be, edited by Tony Wolff. Oh man. And there's a lot. Some of it seems to be about bringing the art into modern times. It has a section on learning from books. Also has, for instance, this is a chapter, The Missing Link Between Vigny and Lang Finally Revealed. So these are 2 different stick fighting methods. So, Umbrella, A Misunderstood Weapon, originally published on the Bartitsu.org website in May 2009. So those are the kind of articles that are in here and what this is covering. So those are my new finds. Very often this is the part where I would be asking you guys, like, hey, which one of these would you like to see reviewed first? And you can definitely have some input on that. If there's something that gets a lot of attention, perhaps I will front load it. But right now I sort of have plans as far as the book reviews go for the next several months. They are kind of vague plans. Some of these might work into them. Just letting you guys know what the new purchases are, what you might see coming up in the future. Even talking about things like, the video I'm going to do about the differences between the modern Greco-Roman Olympic style of wrestling and what the ancient Greeks actually used. Just giving you a heads up on upcoming things. So that's what I have. Anyway, thank you guys for following. If you would like to sponsor the channel so I can buy more books and maybe better equipment, I could always use some better audio equipment, some better lighting, things like that, please consider donating to my Ko-fi account. There's going to be a link in the description. If you have a request for a specific book, again, please consider donating to my Ko-fi account. I want to thank you guys for following along with me. I know some of you are nerds like me who just love all things martial arts. For those of you who do not have that itch, thank you for following to the end. Just me talking about, this is, I guess, the equivalent of an unboxing video that other channels do, but yeah, I got a bunch of books. Thanks for following me along and hearing me talk about my books and nerd out about them. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you again.